Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show.
Live from the apocalypse. Good job, Larry. This is State of the Game. I am your host. I am a tasty buffalo chicken empanada of hip-hop blogging. Dano. My co-host, as always, known internationally as someone who carries the confidence of both Paul brothers, you know, Jake and Logan, their confidence. We're talking about K Diggy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
This is we built this city, you know? So it's great. We have with us today, just an incredibly important person, a shooting star, you know, the Giannis Antetokounmpo of the blogosphere.
Oh, I like that.
Rohan Patra of Rap Music Plug podcast. You've really built yourself. You came on here a long time ago.
Yeah, it was
2020,
I think
I
a little bit before summer of 2021. Yeah.
And you are a big fucking deal now. It's awesome.
I don't know if I'd say that. I don't know. But I am kind of wearing Giannis Milwaukee Bucks green though.
Oh, you
Yeah,
got the scowl. You're ready to go. But yeah, no. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all you've contributed, man. For like really shining a light on interesting projects and interesting artists that don't get covered anywhere else with any sort of regularity. There's people who they go on their media tour to support their album, and you're it. Because people are not switched on yet. That's pretty dope. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm really excited for this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
This comes from just a chat. I am a subscriber to the Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. We're in the chat, and I was talking about how there should be the opposite of the XXL Freshman Class. Should be a senior class. We should celebrate that longevity. And Ro pulled me aside and was like, let's talk about this offline. This is interesting. So we pulled this idea and thought about it because it's important to celebrate that longevity. And it's important to talk about that. And the parameters of this are they need to have 15 years in the game or more. That's a senior, and they can't just have hung around for 15 years. They have to have been really impactful at the beginning and really impactful now.
Yeah, so I think I'll add to that. I'm not using a real artist here, but if some artist was 25 years in the game, but the first 20 or the first 15, they were just finding their footing, never really made a lot of great music, at least in your opinion or my opinion.
Right.
But then the last decade they've been killing it. I still wouldn't, they would be eligible, but I wouldn't choose them because they've only really had 10 or so years of what I think is their, what they'll be known for kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there will be some artists that I think people may think why didn't you pick them? But I'm technically, I mean, yeah, but I don't think they really fit for this.
Right. It's hard to win the title, Kay, but it's so much harder to defend the title. That's what everybody says, right? And that is what that is kind of what an artist with a legacy has to do, right? They have to defend their title every time. And the people who do that, like just year after year, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing. So this is a good opportunity to talk about them and what makes them so fucking cool. Because they're all different, unique stories. So so that's the reason I think we're doing this and the ground rules. I wanted to talk about some of my exclusionary criteria, right? Because we created a Google Doc through names on it. We're going to pull from those names. I did not put Nas on that list. And I'll tell you why. Now, Nas is amazing. Nas was impactful then. He's impactful now, you know? But the people that I focused on were stories that I felt were really stirring partially because of degree of difficulty. Right? People that had to like keep on going and win new fans without support, without consistent support. Nas from day one has had consistent support. Right? You know, we're talking about one guest feature brings all of New York to you to create this amazing album, right? And then from then on, you know, you can take 8 years off, come back, and you'll still go platinum. That is not something that a lot of people on this list could do because they just didn't have that. Yeah, they had a bigger degree of difficulty, in my opinion, career-wise. Does that make sense?
No, I think that does. I think it's kind of like a story. I would also add to it, I think the degree of difficulty and like there has to be a story, I think, that you can tell about how they succeeded or their impact in all of the in the key phases of their career. Because like honestly, actually, with that criteria, I wouldn't even pick Nas necessarily because he's been great for a long time. He's still very good. I liked Magic. I think he's definitely a very good rapper still. But I would argue in the last decade, he hasn't made there's not an impact that I'm like writing home about. He's just continued to make pretty good music to some great music, which is great. That's like an accomplishment. That's impressive. He's old as fuck, but like the impact was early and the real notable story was early. And I don't know if that's really carried forward.
Yeah, and it's not. We don't feel like we're in a beautiful new chapter of it. You know, this feels like we're getting, 70% of what we liked. You know, yeah. So I feel that as a thing as well. Because we're all about manners here. We're all about tact. Ro is going to get the first pick. Not only is he going to get the first pick, we're going to leave it up to our guest to determine who gets second pick.
Okay. Well, my first pick, as we're thinking about this, I honestly am like thinking, should I put another one? But I'm thinking of the criteria, the exclusionary criteria that you just gave. And one name that came to mind was Jay-Z. I actually didn't think of him before.
Yep.
Until you mentioned Nas, and I'm like, oh yeah, like the obvious ones. I kind of almost skipped by like those guys. They're just those guys. But Jay-Z, I think I kind of don't want to include him either because I do think he does fit the criteria for the most part of being someone who's made an impact and I think has like a success story that has different chapters to it. Because I argue, and this is a little more debatable for sure, his post 444 career, I think, is pretty good. He's only released that one album, but his features and then his like half contribution to the written testimony, I think is pretty fucking great. And it's also like a different flavor. That's the thing that I find interesting is that there was an actual evolution there. He didn't just continue to make Jay-Z music. Like he's definitely on a different wave. He's rapping a lot differently. I think his embrace of his like very diminishing technical abilities is really admirable. He actually like has just made that cool and is like super breathy. It's very Makami. Like there's a lot of influence, I'm sure. But I think the part about like the degree of difficulty is what I'm going to keep him out, just because I mean, yeah, he definitely grinded to get there. I'm not taking that. But once he dropped Reasonable Doubt, like he didn't need to do anything and he was going to sell out for like literally 15 for his whole career. He didn't need to become like interesting again to me. He could have just been a legacy artist forever. So I'm going to take him out and I will add someone as my first pick, which also includes producers because that's something you didn't mention, but that's a good fact. It includes producers. I'm choosing Rock Marciano. So that's my first choice because he's now on the list of like there's no caveats anymore of like, oh, he's like top 5 for an underground rapper or top 5 this decade. Like I don't know where he is exactly, but he's in my top 10 all time guaranteed of all artists that I've listened to. And why I particularly love him for my number 1 pick is because this transformation from like the UN days of like I think that's like, and his like, what do you call it? Affiliation and work with Busta Rhymes, Flip Mode Squad, to Marsburg being his true debut in 2010 and Reloaded. Even all of that just before Marsburg was a different Marciano. Then we got Marsburg, which was like him definitely doing something fresh and new, but he still kind of rapped sort of like someone like meaning like he was somewhat familiar. He was rapping a bit differently, but he still was like his voice was loud. He was trying to make music that fit more of a parameter, even though it was just so bare bones. Then Reloaded came, and then you're like, whoa, what is this guy doing? He's like whispering, he's like talking on the beat, that kind of thing. The beats don't even have much of a drum like presence. That was interesting. And then, so like the third kind of evolution is Rosebud Revenge 1 onward, where I think his musical aesthetic that we've like seen for the past 6 years is now just so refined. His cadence is like incredibly charismatic in how he like fluidly goes from like ad lib to rap to talk. Like it's just like no rules apply kind of rapping. And then the lyricism is absurd it's only gotten more absurd. And that's something I really love because he didn't really do that as much on Marsburg or Reloaded. Definitely not Marsburg. It was more just like tough guy talk and like cool pimp shit. But now he's saying like what Dracula bit me and I didn't bleed or something on like the elephant man's bones. He's just his lavish like remarks on his lifestyle, his work with women, his like fucking swag, his street cred. It's just so absurd. And I think it's just really cool to see an artist be so fully realized and so authentically himself in like every single way. And that's just been like the most impressive thing with him. So he's my number 1 pick.
Great number 1 pick. I affirm this pick. The K, if you go back to Busta Rhymes' 2000 album Anarchy,
okay,
Rock Marciano was on it on a song called The Heist.
Because he was on Flip Mode, right? Rock started on Flip Mode.
Yeah.
He's on The Heist with Raekwon and Ghostface Killah.
Wow.
It's a really important song, and he's great on it. So that is to be great in 2000 and great in 2022. It's a hell of a thing.
And to do it in like many different ways and to just evolve. It's just unbelievable. It's really rare you see an artist evolve like that. And kind of like it's a lot of self-awareness too. Because I don't think when he does rap really fast and like loudly like he does earlier in his career, and by loud I just mean rapping like kind of like a normal person. Most people think rap. He doesn't, it just sounds maybe it's just biased, but it doesn't sound that clean. It doesn't sound that smooth. Now all you can think of Rock Marciano is like, damn, that guy's smooth. Damn, that guy's cool. Like,
and you know, it's not only that I think he's evolved, I also think that he's also influenced as well. So
yeah,
I mean, I became familiar with Rock probably in maybe 2015. You know what I mean? 2015, 16, I can't remember, around that time. And you can see since 2016, you can see how he's influenced other artists. So not only has he evolved his sound, but he's attracted other artists to what he's working on, and he's influenced those around him as well.
I like that as a factor too, because when we go back to Nas, it doesn't necessarily need to be an exclusionary factor, but another reason why I didn't want to pick him is that, again, he's rapping really great. I don't think he has any, like, he hasn't influenced anything in reality. He's just making music that people love still, which is impressive. But again, I don't know what Nas's trends that he's like set off, or like movements or waves. Jay-Z, people argue like that grown man rap of like, being more money wise, I think is overblown, because I think honestly people don't understand, like, all these rappers that we loved in the 90s, and like maybe some of them started earlier than that, they're just older now. And it's great because a lot of them unfortunately passed away. So like Jay-Z's old as fuck, but now Black Thought's doing something very similar, albeit not to Jay-Z status. It's just because they're finally at the age to where they're 40 and they have kids, and they're like, yeah, maybe like investing in stocks, or like, not buying all these clothes. Like, it's just like, yeah, you do that when you're 40. I don't think Jay-Z necessarily.
No, Jay-Z's in his 50s. He's not. 40.
He's actually in his 50s, but I don't think Jay-Z, like, I think the influence is slightly overblown to where I think people are talking about a lot of that stuff because they're older now.
Yeah, and people people will find a way to love what rich people do, no matter what it is. So like Jay-Z, like, talking about being rich is fascinating to people, but he's been doing it since the first album.
Yeah.
So whatever. But but the point with Rock Marciano that I would want to add as part of his case, Kay, like, what he said was, he was like, what I wanted to do didn't fit in flip mode. And what he started to do with Mark Berg and is continuing to do, I think, was best summed up by Royce the 5'9". He was on Twitter, he was thanking Rock for a feature that he did on, maybe it was The Audacity or something. It was one of those albums. And he said, Rock, there's nobody like you. Your use of negative space is unlike anything I've ever seen. And him putting it like that, I was like, oh, that's right. Like, Rock uses negative space in the middle of his verses beyond pauses.
Yeah.
It doesn't simple pause, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean, where it's like his cadence is just gotten to this point where it's like so fluid, you don't even notice it. Like, until you say the negative space, I may have thought of that in the past, but I honestly don't consciously ever notice, like, oh, that's an odd pause or an odd way. But like, it's just like the way he talks. It's like he just does pauses. Sometimes he'll just, like, when he's like doing one of those rhymes where he's like spitting game or something, he'll like really like take his time and just talk like this and then go. And it's all just like, it doesn't have one flow. It's not the same rhythm line to line. It's just, there's no rules. And that's not how rap, like people think rap should be, but that's how he's done it. And it's brilliant. And
it's, or if there are rules, they're his rules, right? Like, so Kay, you remember when we talked to AJ Suede, and AJ Suede was talking about the mathematics of his flow?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
One of our favorite moments right here. But like, if you think about Rock Marciano and how distinct his flow is, he kind of created his own formula within the mathematics of flow.
Yeah.
He kind of created the Rock Marciano formula, where you can now hear people like, I remember hearing a Chris Crack album and him saying, I was listening to a shitload of Rock Marciano. I'm like, I know. You could hear how the formula is really interesting and adapted by other people and influential, Yeah. I'm with it. Okay, any objection to this one, or are we?
Absolutely not.
Oh, well, let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna pick the next guy, and I'm gonna give the second pick to K Diggy.
Hey, Diggy.
Okay. Oh, good. It's funny because my first pick changed within the last 20 minutes. So I'm going to go with someone who's been a prolific producer for decades now. I'm going to go with The Alchemist.
Ah.
And
That was
You
my
know, we're
second pick.
reading, so it's 2022 now. Let me read you some of the projects that he was associated with in 2002. Styles P, A Gangster and a Gentleman, Nas, The Lost Tapes, Fat Joe Loyalty, Linkin Park Reanimation, Infamous Mob, Special Edition, Cypress Hill Slash, Royce the 5'9". He had a feature on the Saigon as well. So let's fast forward to 2022 and some of the projects that he's worked on just this year. And what are we? We're in September now. Earl Sweatshirt, Sick, Currency and the Alchemist, Continuance, Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher, Action Bronson, Arm and Hammer, Kendrick Lamar, Elucid, Rock Marciano, The Elephant Man Bones. So this is the man who's been producing consistently for over 20, 25 years.
Yep.
High level work. I mean, he's a craftsman at his art. And, you know, not only has he been producing, but he's also been influencing, you know, the future generation of producers. You know, I think Tyler the Creator mentioned how much of a fan of The Alchemist he was. So, I mean, so this is a guy who has been consistently producing high level work for over 20 years.
Oof. I affirm this. I second this motion, and I will only add one thing, Rohan, before throwing to you. I am amazed by how different Elephant Man's Bones is than Haram. If you just listen to those two projects, they don't even sound like they were done by the same producer to me. And that's how cool Alchemist is. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. I think his versatility is just, it's not even unparalleled. He may be the most versatile producer of all time. I think I'll just say he is, because the only other person that comes close is someone that doesn't actually produce all of it himself. So it's not really the same thing. Because I'm thinking of Kanye. He probably has the biggest breadth of stuff that he's produced, but a lot of it is sometimes he's working with other producers and then he molds it and crafts it, which I think is a different kind of skill. But as a true producer, I think The Alchemist is the most versatile ever. And I think what I love so much about him is that I think his later era beats, I argue, are better. They're just more my cup of tea. But I just love it how he can give you something so gutter and like straightforward boom bap. He can give you something so experimental and just psychedelic as fuck, like he did on Haram, like, which I think is maybe his best producing. And then the Elephant Man's Bones, which is just like luxury rap, but like so exquisite. But though I would say you can tell that it's made by a guy, both those albums, Haram and Elephant Man's Bones, are made by a guy that knows how to make an album front to back, which he's probably produced the most front to back albums with a rapper out of any great producer by a huge stretch of a mile. So, and you can see that both of those records, the way the skits, the way sounds of different songs from one front to back somehow work because of just like slight little, I think it's Deja Vu goes into Quantum Leap. I believe. Yep. Yeah. Deja Vu is like this very like dark room jazz with this like kind of haunting kind of piano going on. And then it kind of just has that like little 10-second, 20-second skit. And it just starts to get all of a sudden like something is like getting warped. And then it gets a little quiet. And then it goes doo-doo-doo, and then Quantum Leap goes on. You're like, wow, that was such a good segue. He's just a fucking genius when it comes to like making an album sequence and like making it flow. Yeah. Highly affirmed that he was my second pick, like on the board. Yeah. So you took him.
His palette is like unparalleled.
Unparalleled.
Yeah. His palette, I would say. But yeah, so that is great. It is affirmed, right? I like this class already. So number 3, my pick, because my degree of difficulty, this was sticking in my mind, is Aesop Rock. Because Aesop Rock started on one of the least friendly indie labels in history. Like, I remember talking to Alaska Adams, and I was like, I fucking hated Def Jux. He was on Def Jux, and I was like, I hated you guys back in the day. You guys seemed like dickheads who like hated everyone. And he's like, we kind of did hate our fans. Like, they were just really angsty 90s kids, right? Like, that's what it was. So they were very heady, very artistic, but very like middle fingers up at everything established, right? So it's, and as dense as Aesop Rock is, with not being friendly and being independent, that career could have gone by real quick. To have been able to continue and elevate yourself is shocking to me. I didn't like Aesop Rock back in the day. I didn't. But now we're in a world where he won, right? Like, he's Castro's favorite rapper of all time. You know, he's a huge influence on Billy Woods. The whole a whole chunk of this underground that we love is a post Aesop Rock like underground, in my opinion. And Garbology is still super dope. Like, came out last year. Like, the projects that are recent are really interesting and challenging. And I give him a lot of credit.
So I affirm that. I guess that just means like I accept that that's a good pick. It's interesting though. I don't have personally with Aesop Rock. I really like him, but I don't think I actually do love like a couple of his projects. So it's not like one of those, but it's interesting you chose him. I think definitely the degree of difficulty and just like the unbelievable nature of like how the fuck did he really make that work, I think is maybe the strongest of all of them, because there's nothing accessible about anything he does, even now. But that being said, I do like, though, he's not really transformed fully, but he has managed to make himself a lot more of a person instead of this like not even rapidy rap, but just like unbelievable, like what is he, the classic rapper that has the most like largest vocabulary from like that that one study that everybody references. Like, he went from that to making an album like Skeleton. Like, it's very personal, and he's managed to make himself like actually come off as a human in a very easy way where you can actually empathize with him, and like his subject matter is, very heartfelt. And as he's also produced a lot. That's a definite evolution. And that's given his music like a different spin, a different kind of freshness that has made his kind of pretty consistent rapping approach just be a lot more palatable. Really, with like The Impossible Kid is definitely one of like a great late era record from him, and Garbology with Blockhead's dope. So yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah. How do you feel, Kay?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that vocabulary story, when that came out, I feel like that was when everyone realized how important he was. Like, that was like a real moment where people were like, oh shit, that is right. I forgot about him. Like, it was, Aesop Rock's been so consistently Aesop Rock that, like, when people write white rapper articles, they never talk about Aesop Rock. He doesn't seem like it, because, like, if you were white rapper trying to make your white rapper lane, you wouldn't do it the way Aesop Rock is doing it. That would not be the way to fame and glory.
Fair point.
Yeah, he's doing it for the love of his shit, and to Rose's point, I don't always love it. I don't always want to listen to it, but whenever I do, it never disappoints me. And that overspan from the 90s to now, that's incredible. That's just incredible. To be like this gloriously literary dickhead and it works is like, what the fuck? Amazing. So I love it.
It's a good, I agree.
Is it my turn now?
You're up with the next pick. We're at number 4.
Okay. My next pick is okay. Before I say it, if both of you could just like as you're listening, think of an athlete, preferably in basketball or the NFL, because I don't follow any of the others to know anything about them. That is just a guy that like every time he's on a team, he just kind of fits in like glue, and he's like a championship piece.
Oh, I got one.
He can be a star, he can be a role player, any of them. If you could think
Yeah,
of
we
it
know.
as I go.
I think Dan and I are gonna have the same person, but
Okay, so my third pick is LP, and I think that was like it's just I feel like it's just his catalog's unimpeachable. But starting with Company Flow as a rapper, like the angsty 90s shit, like incredibly dense to the point where it's like I don't even know what template they went off of. They clearly went off no template at all. Incredible to even think they made that. It sounds so good till this day, has aged beautifully. And then Cannibal Ox Cole Vane being the producer for that, one of the best albums of all time. He really has two back-to-back best album of all times, like as a major contributor. And then a solo artist like Fantastic Damage is incredible and also sounds different than the others, also incredibly dense. And again, just blows my mind that he created this when he created it. Doesn't sound like anything even made now. His solo records after that are still very good. I don't think they're at that level. But then the fact that he reinvented himself, not only as like a member of a group of like multiple people, not just one other person, then as a main producer sculpting a sound, which was supposed to be his album, as people may know. That was supposed to be the beats for LP's solo, but he decided to just do the Cannibal Ox shit and give it to them.
Right.
Then being a dope solo artist, and then now, most recently with our Run the Jewels, reinventing himself to be a member of this like high flying, like action movie type rap duo that still makes great music. I think they get a bit of shade now, and LP does too, because they, I think a lot of his old fans aren't necessarily always the demographic that loves what Run the Jewels is doing now. But I just think he's doing something different. I think his flow is a lot more accessible. It's a lot more catchy. Like he's making hits, which is not something like ever associated with LP, but like how the fuck did he manage to do this? He's become a hit maker while still producing all that shit beautifully, epic as always, and has always been a quality over quantity guy that has just always impressed me. And that brings me to the sports metaphor. So like, who's the guy or guys that you were talking about?
You go, Kay.
I mean, off the top of my head, the first guy that came to mind for me was Andre Iguodala.
Oh, that's a great.
Just a guy who
great
was,
choice.
When he was with the Sixers, he was a star, and then he got traded to Denver, and he really transformed himself into like a glue guy, into someone who was going to come in, do what needed to be done, not cause any drama, and step up in big moments when necessary. And then when he got traded to the Warriors, it just took his whole, his whole, I guess, I don't want to say brand, like it took his whole legacy to a whole nother level. And he will go down as a winner.
Yeah,
That's a great choice.
My comp, and because I affirm this pick loud and clear. Kay, I don't know if you have any objections. I wouldn't imagine.
No.
So my comp would be Shane Battier.
Oof, love me some Shane Bat.
Shane Battier, his Wikipedia page said something like, his teams won at the collegiate, professional, and international levels.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about NBA champion, college champion, and was always had this reputation as the smartest guy in every locker room he was in.
I read a story when he was with the Miami Heat, he would come into the locker room with like printouts of other opposing teams' shooting percentage, and he would go over to LeBron, and him and LeBron would like pour over these like statistics. And so like LeBron has stated that Battier has been was like a huge influence for him when he was in Miami.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Shane, baby.
I like those picks. Iguodala was the one I was thinking of. I don't want to make the comparison because it doesn't match, but the idea I feel reminds me of Brady, just in this one sense, in Tom Brady, that he is the system. That's what I feel. That's what people thought with Brady, was that it was Belichick's system and he was just a system quarterback, which was pretty ridiculous to ever say. But now after the Bucs shit, I think Peyton Manning's another good example.
Yeah.
He just went to the Broncos and immediately he's like, oh, they're just great. They're just amazing. They have the best passing attack. LP's the system. Wherever he goes, either as a solo artist, as the producer for a group, or a member of a group, and a member as a duo. He's just always knows what needs to be done, and he's just a fucking machine. So
his production impact almost feels RZA scale, like in terms of uniqueness, right? Like RZA production doesn't sound like anything you've ever heard anyone else do.
Yeah.
And Aesop Rock tried to do it for a few years, but didn't successfully do it. But Kay, your pick.
Man, I mean, it's interesting. Like, it's so hard with rapping to find someone who has, like, withstood the test of time. So I mean, I'm gonna have to go with another producer again.
Do it.
And I'm gonna go with No ID. Yes, I know that's who I was kind of. He was gonna initially be my first, but then when I saw, like, Alchemist's, discography, it's undeniable. The resume is, you can't deny it. But No ID, not only, I mean, he's been involved with so many important projects, over the last, you could say, 5-10 years. On top of his production, he's also influenced, probably one of the greatest producers of our generation. Not probably, one of the greatest producers of our generation, in Kanye.
Mm-hmm.
On top of, he's also, now he's kind of veering into R&B as well, where he has Snow Allegra on his label, which is who I think is kind of one of the most important.
I didn't know that she was on that label.
Yeah.
Does he do, like, is he producing for her, like, at all?
Yeah, he produces for her as well.
I need to check her out. I've heard so many good things.
Wow.
I need to check her out.
And I think she's going to be important. I think her level of prestige is going to rise as she gets older, because she can sing. She's one of the most talented singers. So I just think, he's just done. He has his hands in so many fields that you just can't deny the impact that he's had.
He's a big influence guy. He's his biggest. Yeah. He does have that, like, the firsthand accomplishments, like a lot of that early Common stuff, Resurrection in particular. That's just God. That's such a well-produced album. And then them being a mentor to Kanye, and then also, like, the thing people don't remember as much, like, he mentored Kanye, but he also, like, it actually produced for Kanye as like a co-producer, or did some beats himself on Kanye albums that are some of the best songs Kanye's made. So he's, like, really, and it's also different is that it was very much not the sound he grew up on, or revolutionized. Yeah, Kanye was the sample guy, chipmunk sample shit, sure, but, like, No ID really got involved actually as a co-producer for Kanye when Kanye was already, like, going Galaxy Brain shit, where Graduation, 808s and Heartbreak is a heavy No ID contribution. Yeah. That is a very revolutionary album in itself, and No ID had a big part in that. So, and then actually fully producing Jay-Z's 444, which I think is really beautifully produced. It's just, he's fucking undeniable.
Well, and my case on this, I mean, I'm affirming as well. There's no fighting the case here. When I talk about degree of difficulty, No ID is a very interesting case, because he has what I call, we can trademark this, the Bill Withers pivot. When I was growing up, there were no Bill Withers fans. They were just like, who? And then you'd be like, the Lean on Me? Oh, I love Lean on Me. Like, they knew the songs, but not him.
Yeah.
No ID was that guy, for real. No ID was the guy. People knew songs that he did, but they didn't know him until Kanye blew up as hard as he did and consistently referenced No ID as his mentor.
Yeah.
Yep. In song.
Consistently, No ID is my mentor. And that gave No ID a second shot, and he did not waste it.
Right. And I mean, Jay-Z, I think the work he did with, like, I became familiar with No ID through American Gangster, Jay-Z.
Yep.
Which beats did he do on that one? I don't remember.
He executive produced it, and then let me go
okay.
back. But he did let's see, the beats that he handled for production for were Success and Fallen.
Oh, Success. Oh,
with Nas, yeah.
Oh, Success.
I love Fallen too. Oh
yeah, they're both great, but fucking Success. That's the one.
That's a hell of a song. Yeah.
I
always say that should have been the first Nas Jay-Z. If that was their first collab, that'd just be such a moment. But it was like their second. It's the Black Republican.
And I mean, and then you look at his discography. In 2010, he did a song for Killer Mike, did some production for Drake, Thank Me Later, did some production for Big Sean.
He did Watch the Throne. He did I think he did a couple. He did Prime Time.
Cudi's Man on the Moon too. So this is a man who's worked with all, like, the big stars of our generation, like the so. And
not somebody who lays eggs, right? It's like,
no,
you can't think of a bunch of No ID projects that just suck. Like, I don't think that's it, right?
Not really even beats.
Right.
Like, his floor is very high.
Right.
His floor is very high.
That's a great summation. I mean, I think that's real. Is it? Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gotta check my big board. All right. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Black Thought. And I'll tell you why. I think John Morrison made this point when we were talking about the Cheat Codes album, right? That when that 10-minute freestyle hit, and he said 6 months later, he had an album. But like the Black Thought hit the studio right off after that freestyle went big and started the Streams of Thought series. And like when Black Thought identified, oh shit, the world wants me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna give it to him. That's huge. To see the opening and to jump through it, that's huge.
Yeah, because honestly, that came out, I think 2018, right? Because Streams of Thought 1, I think, also came out 2018. Yeah, like the Roots hadn't dropped anything since 2014, if I'm not mistaken, which was that And Then I Shoot Your Cousin, or Then You Shoot Your Cousin.
Yep.
And there was, I think, tentative talks, and I even think there's a tentative name for this album, which I don't know if it's ever coming out, for like the follow-up to that. And I think it was maybe talked about for 2 years, and then I don't think we ever have heard a word about a Roots album in any serious fashion. So I don't know, maybe it was true that he literally just did the freestyle and that was a catalyst, because it doesn't sound like he was working on a lot of music either with the Roots or as a solo artist. So that's a very interesting point. I never thought of how close in proximity that was.
He's rapping at an extremely high level. He's destroying guest features. By the way, that was another thing we should have said about LP. LP is walking around destroying guest features.
Oh, yeah. Again, quality over quantity. That guy never has ever had a bad feature.
And Black Thought is murdering features, blowing people off their own albums. But like Cheat Codes is an elite celebration of creative writing and how fun it is to write. And yeah, lyrically, he's amongst the sharpest of his generation right now. Right? If Jay-Z, Nas, and Black Thought got on a song, my first thought would be, oh shit, Thought's got this.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. For
And that's
sure.
saying something. That is saying something. That's my.
I mean, I affirm that. I
Sure.
I think it's with him. It's similar to a lot of these guys. I think we're noticing a trend. It's just like being able to be great in different circumstances is what like keeps your longevity going. Because you can be great in one circumstance and that's still worth something, but it's not how you're gonna last in a game that's like constantly evolving. Like no ID, right? Like he's not making like dusty jazz rap like that, even though he maybe kind of does that like in a different way on 444. But just like boom bap, at least it's not. He's producing for fucking Kid Cudi, and like in a million years you wouldn't expect that, but he's doing it, and he's doing it to an amazing level, and like pushing the art forward. And with Black Thought, I mean, the roots, everything about him is pretty much undeniable, and you could argue he's he's rapping just as good or at least at a similar level to where it's not really noticeably different, but he's doing it where he didn't actually really get the acclaim that I think he ever deserved for like the first 15 years of his career. Really until 2018.
Yes,
Really
absolutely.
until 2018. He's always just like, and I would see what people would say as the reason. It's like, oh, well, it's not like it was just the beats or anything or like the production, but they were just saying like he didn't have that it factor. And some of that I can see, but really not really. I don't think that was ever really fair, but it was just because the Roots were known as a group. He just never got the shine. And to have that confidence to just go on a feature run killer and like now he's just a established solo artist. It's great.
Yeah, I'm with it. Kay, anything to add, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I affirm.
All right. So here's my thought. We have 6 now. What I think would be fun is we do another round. We can get to 9, and then the 10th pick we could kind of do together.
Okay. That'll
Color
be
that.
interesting because I think there's like 4 on my board that are like, I gotta say something about them, but I think one of you are gonna take at least 2 of them. I'm sure.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, this is first ballot shit. These
Mhm.
are elite names. So, so I just went. It's
It's me.
back on you. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is tough. This is where it's starting to get tough. I was pretty clear on my first 2.
Mhm.
And what I took to decide this is basically the deciding factor for my 4th pick is who has the the wow moments, basically. Like
Mhm.
just the punch you in the face wow moments, not necessarily the absolute high watermark of consistency at all times. There have been some not duds, but just, not amazing work at all times, but it has definitely spanned a large amount of time. And that is Pusha T.
Oh,
So
That's who I was going. Yeah.
yeah, so Pusha T, so Clips, he jumps off the scene with like, well, the first official record, Lord Willin'. I think that's great, but then it's Hell Hath No Fury for me. That's a classic. That's just like a untouchable classic. Really, still doesn't sound like anything, and that's largely to do with the Neptunes, but also the beats they were choosing, the way that they were making catchy pop appealing music that was also so fucking hard and so raw was really like special for that time, and I think is special even now. And then to transition as a solo artist, this is where like some of the like so records from Pusha T came out for a few years as he was getting his footing, but then dropping King Push, which I think is very, very good. And then the Bonafide classic. I think he has 2 classics in my at least personal classics. Hell Hath No Fury in 2006, and then 2018 he has Daytona. To have like 2 classics, like 2 like absolute stellar records, 12 years apart, that's beautiful. And that's why he gets mine. And at his peak, he's one of my favorite rappers ever also. So like, yeah, that goes without saying.
I affirm this, Kay. The only thing I'll add to this is degree of difficulty. Going from a super successful group to a solo artist, that is difficult.
And I want to add this part because I can speak to it with firsthand experience. I'm like younger than you guys. When he came out in that salmon colored suit at the VMAs in 2009, I did not know who he was. I did not know who he was. I need to repeat that. I did not know who this fucking guy was. And I'm like, why is Kanye doing this? Who is this guy? I want to see him rap with T.I. Like I had gotten into music enough to where like I had a good solid knowledge of mainstream music.
Right.
And even though Clips was mainstream, there was also like we didn't mention it, but like 2006 was like a great album for them, like a Health Out the Fury, but like their pop high watermark was 2002.
Sure.
Like Hell Out the Fury did have like some moments that I think were popular, like Mr. Me Too, but we're not talking like platinum. I don't even think
it's not grinding.
Yeah, it's not grinding. Yeah. So like,
yeah.
he's gone a long time without being like a household name. Like people would know grinding. I would know grinding if I was older. But like he went a long ass time without really being named. And then he took a lot of years off. Like I think the last record held like Casket is like 2007 or 8, and that wasn't very successful. So like he went 4, 5, 6 years without really even being on the radio in any capacity. So yeah, to just come out like that and to just establish yourself with this just like unapologetic street shit, but still working in this mainstream world with like Kanye and good music, it's really hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think for him, I think he did a good job, because what Pusha reminds me of is that a lot of hip hop it's almost kind of like Game of Thrones. Like you have to find which people you want to collaborate, and then once that collaboration goes sour, not even collaboration, relationship. It's all about relationships.
Oh yeah.
And I think Pusha T has done a great job with his relationships and identifying and recognizing the value of his relationships. And that has allowed him to pivot and allowed him to, always stay in the conversation, even when he wasn't in the conversation.
Yep. Because like a chess player.
Yes.
Strategist. Yeah.
Because, when he first came out, the Clips were heavily associated with the Neptunes. Those two were like synonymous, like Star Trek. And then you could see in the early 2010s, he started to pivot more towards his association with Kanye.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that took him into the era that he's in now.
And I think we'd be remiss to not just mention like the Drake beef, just because it still blows my mind that a rapper of that level, he's much bigger now, like a rapper of that level, to just get a unanimous dub against the biggest artist in the game, potentially in the world, is just impossible. You have to just murk someone's whole family, which he did. He literally did.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's impossible.
Like he mixed both his back in the day, the strategy was when there was a beef, it was all about bars. Now rap beef is more about sensationalism, like who can get the most memes, who can get the most people talking on the internet. And Pusha blended both of those strategies together in a way that we hadn't seen. Like I think, when we first heard Story of Adidon, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
The sensational part was, wait, what do you mean Drake has a baby? And then everyone started Googling it and was like, oh, damn, like, wait, Drake has a baby and he didn't tell anyone? And it just took over. It like sucked all the air out of the oxygen, out of the air. Sorry, it sucked all the air out of the room for like that 12 hours when it was released.
I hear you.
And,
no, his basketball comp K is Draymond Green.
Yes, love it.
Love it. So what is your pick? You're next up, Kay.
Oh, gosh, man. Pusha was my that was gonna be my pick. So I'll go with another producer. I'll go with Pharrell. I think Pharrell Williams has done a great he's done a great job, not only staying relevant, but also producing high level work, not only as solo, in terms of like Happy and the work that he's done on the Despicable Me soundtrack, but he's also done a lot of, important hip hop records. Like All Right from Kendrick Lamar was a Pharrell production. And that's arguably
Neon Guts.
Yeah. Neon Guts, Little Uzi Vert. And it goes back to that influence. Like Pharrell has always been willing to reach out a hand to the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that, his influence will remain on.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. I'm always surprised at how interesting Pharrell is still. Like, we talked about some of the beats that he put on the last Pusha T album as being a little weird or underwhelming. But the more I listened to them, the more fascinated by them I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up really preferring his portion to Kanye's portion.
Yeah.
He's just an interesting person with an interesting ear.
Yeah.
And a complete game changer in terms of how people produced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the way he does drums and his pop appeal, his ability to just do R&B, do rap, do different strains of rap, that's what keeps him there. And it's just crazy. He also has one of the most trademark sounds. I've never failed when I say, like, someone's like, either I know Pharrell has a beat on an album or I don't. I'll know it's a Pharrell beat. And that's impressive. And it's not because it's like the same shit every time. It's just like a certain flavor, a certain type of drum where you're just
yeah. You can't put your finger on it, but you can tell, like, oh, that's a Neptune or Pharrell.
I'll tell you, I was listening to the new Rosalia album, and I definitely didn't know he was on the record, but I know that I heard generically, like, oh, she reached out to some like hip hop producers, and like I know she's very influenced by hip hop. I did a whole conversation pieces on it on my own podcast about her influence on hip hop or from hip hop. But when the title track came on of that, I'm like, that's Pharrell. Like, that's fucking Pharrell. And I'm thinking of that on like a fucking Spanish pop album. And I was right. It's Pharrell. It's like, this guy is just fucking, it's just got that je ne sais quoi. Yeah.
And I don't know, underground people, like I'll ask underground people, who's better, Madlib or Pharrell? And they'll be like, of course, Madlib. And I'm like, is it of course? Like, I love Madlib, but is it of course? Like,
I think Pharrell's rep, and like, I'm not saying he has really a bad rep, or I think people generally still like him, but like his persona and his rep kind of undercut his output. Because I agree, people kind of think he's corny. That I'm Happy shit like did a negative to his like perception amongst like hip hop heads. But people don't like really realize all the time everything he's been a part of.
Yeah, he bought a house on that shit though, okay?
Multiple. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest songs of the last 10 years. So
all right, I'm gonna go with a weird one because I'm excited about this. My pick is Killer Priest.
Okay.
Killer Priest, when you talk about degree of difficulty, he might win the lottery, right? He was one of the least supported in the Wu-Tang, right? What I mean, when the Wu-Tang came out as a collective, we were supporting meth no matter what. We always will. Raekwon, Ghostface, right? There were Capadonna, people who liked Capadonna. Killer Priest was very under the radar. Like, Heavy Mental maybe went gold, but that was the last like Wu supported Killer Priest. Everything after that, he's been on an island, just doing his own shit, and has a surprisingly sturdy discography. And I'll tell you, Kay, what was always interesting about Killer Priest was that there were all these references just a reader, you know. He was like, I saw an interview with him where he like used to print out online descriptions and encyclopedias on shit and just read it, you know. And so
Love
he was
that.
always studying something interesting. And as he went underground, firmly underground, you can see this his most recent work. He just leaned into getting stranger and stranger and doing it whatever he wanted. I was listening to his last album, which is Horoscope, Horrah, and I was listening to a song on it where he's like, the song is about a Comanche Indian from space. Like that's not a different kind of thing for Killer Priest. And if you look up YouTube and see the videos, they're animated videos that are super wild with just pyramids and spaceships and monsters, and like he's full on exploring the inner weirdness of his mind. And he'll sometimes make bossa nova albums or tripped out psychedelic albums and just go wherever he wants. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch a creative be able to do. So.
That's definitely an interesting one, because as you're saying woo, I was realizing we didn't mention Ghost, but honestly, but like when I thought about it, I'm like, I think it's similar to Nas, that he's still great, but I don't, if we're going by the 15 years, like Fish Scale, what was it?
When's
12
the
Reasons
last
to Die.
Ghostface Kill album? Like, when was the last one he even made?
I think it was called like the self-titled in like 2019 or 18. But I think like they're all very good. I think he's a model of consistency, but I don't think he really has made that big impact in that, like around that 15-year mark.
Yeah.
Really after his first, like in the 2000s, I don't think he's really, since Supreme Clientele, of course, I don't think he's really made that big impact that I would choose him over. But I mean,
yeah, the last one I really loved from him was probably Apollo Kids, in 2010. Maybe
I like 12 Reasons to Die more than most people. And I've really liked all the records he dropped since, except the Ghostface Killers one. I didn't really like that one, but
Sour
but still,
Soul,
yeah.
Sour Soul.
I think it's good. He's a good like omission. I think that's solid.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's do you have any Killer Priest thoughts? Are you anti or pro or what?
I haven't listened to enough because he's dropped so much music now these days.
So much.
But the ones I've heard in his later era, I do see what you're saying. Like Rocket to Nebula is like, I think the most popular one he's dropped.
Yep.
That one is really impressive. And that is like it's like, damn, no one's made an album like this. Just like no one's made an album like this. It's just period. It's just celestial.
Yeah, it is. It's a great point. And like to have, I think his debut album, solo album is from '98. So, that's a heck of a run. Do you have any thoughts on this, Kay? Are you?
No.
That's cool, man. So that leaves us. Let me share screen here. I'm going to show you the class as we have it. We are going to collectively bargain the 10th name. This is going to be great. So, Rock Marciano, Alchemist, Aesop Rock, LP, No ID, Black Thought, Pusha T, Killer Priest. What is our ratio of producers to rappers here?
I think we have Pharrell. LP kind of counts as, he'll count as both. I think so.
Yeah.
And then Alchemist and No ID, Alchemist, LP, Pharrell. So we have 4.
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. So, who do you guys think would be a great 10th pick here I know I have a name I'm thinking of, but what are you guys thinking?
Okay,
And-
so
and-
I'll give you two. I'll give
Yeah.
you two, like my first two.
Yep.
Yeah, there's others I definitely want to shout out honorably, but I'll say I don't even have. I'm trying to even think what would be my number one if I had to give you one. Okay, I give you one. I'd say Lupe Fiasco, and
Ooh,
then
I like
right after that, like it's a 1A 1B thing is Blue.
Blue.
They're just very different reasons, but like those are the two I'll go with.
Kay, do you have a name you were thinking of?
And we're sticking exclusively to music. But then again, all right, I'm gonna have to go with Kanye.
Okay.
Wait, I didn't even think of Kanye. Like, does he? Oh yeah, Kanye counts, right? Yeah, I mean, okay, but the thing is, like, I guess
I just hate
I
all of
kinda-
his recent music.
Yes,
I mean, Kanye would 100% fit the bill for me if we're not including things like degree of difficulty and stuff like that. Just because it's again, when we say that, I just want to be clear to paraphrase what you were saying. It's not about like the difficulty of their rise to success. We all know fucking how difficult it was for Kanye to be put on. But once he did, he also wouldn't have been maybe a legacy act, but he could have coasted for a decade and sold 200,000, 300,000 every album. You're that big, you hit like a you too big to fail type shit. And I don't really want to include too big to fail artists
You
necessarily.
got to think about Kanye is like Kobe joining the Lakers with Shaq, and then they hire Phil Jackson, and you're like, oh man, this team is loaded. Like he comes on to the Rock, he's producing with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And
that's not to take away from Kobe. Like he ended up being like legitimately incredible legend, but he had a beautiful setup once he did all the work to get there. Like he worked to get that position, but once he got it, he was too big to fail. So yeah, too big to fail artist. I wouldn't include him personally, even though he's 100%. Like everybody knows, like that follows me. Like they know how much I love him.
But I will extend an olive branch to Kay. My one name is Mike Dean.
That was my third. That was the third one I was going to say.
Yep, I like that one.
Mike Dean is the architect of like the Texas sound, like back in the day, back in the 90s. And to go from that to the work that he's done is amazing. Amazing. We do here. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Dean, that's a great choice because he was the third one I was going to consider because
100%.
He's the architect, or like he's the right hand man of the architect of the modern mainstream, not even just mainstream, just modern rap in Kanye.
UGK. He did UGK Too Hard to Swallow. He was on that. He was on The Diary. He's involved.
Yeah, work on The Diary.
Face Mob, which is the early Devin the Dude stuff. The Ghetto Boys, all the way down. Now we're going to like Pretty Girls Like Trap Music, Ty Dolla $ign, KTSE, Maxo Cream, like to carry it forward in this way, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, like when people credit Kanye's like really big jump from like late registration, like Graduation, 808s, Dark Twisted Fantasy, that had varying degrees of Mike Dean influence and Mike Dean actual like contributions. And then his latest era, like basically Yeezus, The Life of Pablo, Donda, which I love all those records. They are so much Mike Dean. Anytime there's like a big like synth lead, it's Mike Dean.
Yeah.
He can play the cello. I think he plays the cello on all of the Lights interlude on Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like he's one of a kind. He's a fucking machine. Like if you look at him, he looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
He looks like he's half dead. He's just chain smoking in the studio, never leaves, but he fucking loves it clearly, and he's amazing.
So we're all cool with Mike Dean.
Absolutely.
Wait. Are we? Wait. So are we? That's our 10th.
What do you think? What do you think? Is this
Okay,
Lupe's
so
got a case. Lupe's got a hell of a case.
okay, so I would still put Lupe or Blue over. So I'll make my
Okay.
case quick.
Make
So
a case.
I'll make the case for both of them, and then I'll just let you guys pick either one of them or Mike Dean. So Lupe's is interesting because I mean he had some bubbling mixtapes and then had like potentially what could have been like a too big to fail trajectory too. Not to the same degree as Kanye, but really did have a big push from like Jay-Z and like cosigns from Kanye, a big spot on Kanye's late registration that got him hugely buzzing. But he made really conscious, really like smart, thoughtful music that was not common in the mainstream, especially in like mid 2000s. And then just went down that weird like Atlantic Records, begrudgingly releasing like a pop rap album, going through some hard times for like 4 years. So there's definitely a valley for him, but I like how he reinvented himself or just like became more unapologetically himself, creative, artistic. Tetsuo and Youth was like the beginning of that. I feel like very conceptually ambitious, really amazing, like attention to detail and like theme building. He got even more eccentric in his lyricism. And then I think Drogas Wave is maybe his best album ever. I actually put it like with Food and Liquor or The Cool. It might be better. And Drill Music in Zion, as of recently, is another very good Lupe album. So that's Lupe's case. And then my Blue case is that he, to another degree lower, when he blew up with Below the Heavens, it was like a cult classic, but then he got signed and he was like, he had a push. Like that was going to be the next like big rapper, at least like a decently big rapper. And he said, nah, fuck it. I'll go make the Godly Barnes LP that gets shelved. That's like made off of like created with like it just sounded like so gutter, like the most lo-fi record I've ever heard, maybe. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. I'm gonna make No York, which is just a cutting edge LA beat scene rap record, and has just always done whatever he wants. But I think the results have been good though. Like he's not always as consistent, but like Below the Heavens is great. Godly Barnes is great. No York is very, very good. And then Miles very later on, like 2020, is fantastic. And like he has a couple like good scattered records along the
Color
way.
Blue is really dope. Yeah.
And as a producer, like that's a key part, like as a producer too. And very influential, that lo-fi sound and that like LA beat sound that like he didn't create, but like helped push, like those now we hear that all the time. And that's definitely worth something.
So K, those are his nominees. Out of those two nominees, here's where my head goes, right? If you look at our list right now, 6 out of those 10 produce at a high level, right? If we put, I would say Lupe makes more impactful projects, right? If you ask me who is deadlier at their best, I'm going to say Lupe.
Yeah,
right?
I would say that too.
And I love Drill Music in Zion. It's climbing every day. My list. But I would say, so Lupe fits on this list nicely. Degree of difficulty wise, he's someone who his label just tried to disembowel him.
Yeah.
You know?
I think my thing that I hold against Lupe, like I'm not going to deny the talent for sure. That's undeniable. I think it's really, for me, he's kind of artistically been in a bubble.
Yep,
you know, I think when I look at all these guys on this list, they've collaborated with other artists over all other genres, including, you know, like I wouldn't feel comfortable, me personally, like I don't deny the skill for sure. It's like someone who scores 30 points. It's like a 30-point score on a lottery team in the NBA to me. I don't deny the skill, but I need to see you work and collaborate with other people in high level, high pressure situations in order for me to like recognize, okay, like this is special what we're seeing. And
So-
and I haven't seen that with Lupe of recent.
So Lupe is Baron Davis and Mike Dean is Tony Parker. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I mean I love Baron Davis, but yeah, I mean it's just he's kind of like, aside from, I mean I remember the Kids See Ghost stuff he did,
Yep.
and then I think he did some stuff with Pharrell on Food and Liquor.
You're
But
talking
other
about
than that,
you say Kids See Ghosts? You're not into Kids See.
oh no
Lupe
no no no,
Fiasco?
I'm sorry, CRS.
But that
That
was
was-
that
Rebel
was one
Soldiers, yeah.
that was one song. Yeah, that actually kind of
Yeah.
proves your point. That didn't work. Although it's
Yeah.
not his fault. It's like they all kind of just didn't really want to do it, it felt like. But
Sorry, yeah, but I mean he was amazing on that. But I do think as an artist, like if you want to be in that conversation, I've got to see you work with an assortment of people, and I just
Yeah.
haven't seen that with Lupe.
I think also to add to your point and kind of remove like hurt my own case for Lupe is that there's also not a lot of, he's very insular as an artist, kind of what you said, like the bubble. And that also leads to his influence and impact being like very much lower than all of these artists we've talked about, even Blue. People look at Blue and like you can see some children of Blue, or just at least you can see a continuation of like, yeah, this guy, the sound quality doesn't need to be the fidelity levels. It can be dusty like that, like, and just the way he raps, what he raps about, being kind of like an everyman. You see that in artists. But with Lupe, I think people just kind of admire him and like respect him. He's respected, but
Absolutely.
I don't hear anybody trying to do anything Lupe does ever, honestly. And that's good. And it doesn't mean bad or good. It's just like his influence isn't there, I don't think.
My other thing to think about with Mike Dean in this class is it gets us a Southern legend in this class, which is probably important, right? We've got a lot of New York in this class.
Do we got a lot of do we have a lot of West Coast, or do we have any West Coast? I can't.
I don't think we do.
Rock, Al, ASAP Rock.
Bias. That East Coast bias. This is exactly what they were talking about.
So I think putting Mike Dean in there and that nod to like being one of the creators of the Texas sound that took over the world is pretty good. And a bridge between that and No ID and, you know, Pharrell. And yeah, so I think that's kind of a good deal.
I'm good with Mike Dean.
I'll
Go
with Mike Dean.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm into it. And it's a strong class. Like there really aren't many weak links in this 10, right? Like Ghostface Killah is on the outside, right? There's no question he's kind of coming off the bench here. But I mean, that's a pretty impressive 10 in my opinion.
We got Lupe coming off the bench. We got Blue coming off the bench. We have Freddie Gibbs, who I wouldn't have chosen just because I don't personally love his earlier stuff. And the longevity is really is really pushing it too. But I really like his stuff now. And I think he's one of the most like improved rappers that I can think of in terms of just like making music I like.
And don't sleep on Action Bronson, who's going to have a case in a little bit.
We'll see. I'm liking this direction he's taking these last couple of years. I was pretty damn worried for a few years there. I was like, he's just stagnating. He's done. He's just going to be like a low level TV star now, but
he's doing it. I love stuff. So we can move to recommendation corner, get you out of here, Ro. I wanted to salute you. I have been totally inebriated on an album you told me to listen to months and months ago.
Okay.
I did listen to him, didn't catch me then, but I've come back to it. So we had Zilla on. Zilla was talking about the difference between the Black Thought MF Doom song and $5 God from Vegas Vic that have the same sample. He's like, my shit knocks because the expert is a hip hop ass producer and his shit knocks. And so I went back to the overview effect.
Oh yeah.
Expert.
Yo, the expert produced $5 God?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
So
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
yeah.
Keep going.
the overview effect is nasty. It's from a sonic perspective, it bangs. It's beautiful. You pull up expert stuff in Audacity, and it's not just a blue line haze. It's like it's moving, right? There's sections to the songs. It's really beautiful. Germicide is really impactful and thoughtful in tracing the steps of all the terrible shit that's going on. And the overview effect is dope. It's real dope.
Man, I'm so happy you fuck with that. That makes me feel really good. That's just really cool to make like psychedelic music that's just so damn creative. I love the sound palette on that one. And it's like a like the label's Rucksack Records, and I just want to shout them out too. They're making a lot of good stuff. They're not like I don't have the familiarity with them to say like some bigger statement, but what they drop, even if I don't know them, I'm checking it out now. They're at that level at least, because there's like this fucking power pop. This will be a part A recommendation, but the Forces, this is like a hip hop influenced power pop EP of like just 5 records, and it's on for like €3 right now on Bandcamp. Super fun. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know who these people are, who this producer is, but it's like super fun. It's like very Beatle-esque, but with like a bit of a hip hop edge. It's like, damn, they really make good shit.
Yeah. Okay, I listened to the overview effect. I wasn't in love with it first, but I kept it on my wish list. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come back to that shit later. And it just hit. It hit beautifully in the second list. So Ro, what else you got for the recommendations?
So I'll go with something that's released 5 years ago. But it's just like such a beautiful thing where you just decide to listen to something again that you used to love, but you just haven't checked it out. Don't think I listened to this record, but prior to like 2 weeks ago, for maybe a couple years in full, other than a couple songs here and there. And that's Kalila's Take Me Apart. That came in 2017. She hasn't released anything. That's her only debut studio album, and she hasn't released anything. And then lo and behold, I like was just like bumping it a lot for last 2 weeks, and then out of fucking nowhere, she hasn't dropped or made any hints to anything, at least that I know of. She has a new album coming out, and she released a single yesterday. So that's beautiful, and the record is ridiculous. It has production from Arca, who you may know for his work with FK Twigs, which LP1 is sort of similar, but it's not the same. But it's kind of like very sensual pop R&B, but really challenging and innovative production that like really will appeal to a hip hop fan, especially if you like more modern sounding hip hop and like IDM type stuff. And Arca also has worked with Kanye on Yeezus. And anyways, ridiculous record. Her vibe is very similar to like classic R&B as it relates to like the singing. Like she sounds like very like her singing and her voice could be like early 2000s, late 90s, but the sound is like the fucking future. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, my other recommendation. I can't remember when this comes out, but man, Sleep Sinatra did an album with Obliv.
Oh yeah, I don't know when that's coming out either. That's dope. That's dope.
It's Shadow Self, and I will say, I've heard it, and it's unfucking believable. I'm so proud of Sleep. Like Sleep is well aware of how brilliant Obliv is. Who was it? Camo Bucket Hats that brought Obliv up as somebody we should.
We should check that. We should look back at that. He might have actually said that.
Camo Bucket Hats, and we asked who should Sleep Sinatra do a full album with, and I believe Camo Bucket Hats said Obliv, and me and Ro were like, "Well, fuck us." Like, there's no suggestions after that.
Is that true? Damn, that's great.
And I think and Sleep loves the Summit. He complimented us on it, and he's like, I would love to lock in with Obliv. I hope that has some influence, because this is some of his very best work. It's great.
I agree. I'll add another one just before we wrap here. I'll say Larry June, Spaceships on the Blade, new record.
Mhm.
I'm just like, I love that guy. I don't know what happened. Another like really uncanny thing where I just started to listen to Larry June independent of this new album dropping. Like I didn't know he was having anything coming out, let alone this clearly feels like his biggest record. It's way longer than anything else he's dropped. And God, it's so fun. It's so smooth. It's so
Okay.
exactly what I need.
That's what we were talking about it last week, right?
Kate, do you know what I got in the mail? Look at this, man.
What are those
It's
Larry
very
June shoes?
Yeah.
These are Larry June shoes, my
Where'd you
friend.
get that? I don't. He's all his merch sold out.
This green tag says Larry. That shit just says Larry.
That's his face on the sole, right?
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know what
he
might
has-
have.
He has
Sorry,
a deal
go.
with Lakai. He has a deal with Lakai, L-A-K-I,
Oh,
L-A-K-A-I, and he has Larry June shoes, and they're unbelievable. They're so comfortable, and my feet are very happy.
That's crazy. Larry June's like a. I need to look back. I don't know if it was AJ Sway when I interviewed him. Maybe he put like the earworm in me because I think he was talking about ad libs, and I think he mentioned Larry June as like just a guy who's just like unbelievably cool ad libs that like add so much to a song.
Yep.
Everything he does, man, he has this like good job, Larry, but he also has like the I don't know what the other one. It's like I'm blanking, but he has like 3 or 4 catchphrases. Like that's absurd amount of them, and they're just layered in. Like it's just adds to the vibe.
I will tell you, Ro, the shoebox says "Good job, Lakai" on it.
Damn, how, like
He's
so
brilliant.
impressive.
He's
He's so
brilliant.
impressive, so damn impressive. He's what Wiz Khalifa would have been if he would have went down a different trajectory after Cushion OJ.
Or like maybe a combination of like Wiz's personality and Currency's diligence.
Yes,
Mm.
and like a true like Wiz clearly made a decision like I want to be a star, and that's fine because he saw the avenue. Whereas if he would have said I can make a lot of money, just maybe not like tenfold that, but like be rich as fuck, but still kind of make what I want to make and like care about the craft a bit more. Yeah, Currencies like that. Larry June, yeah, that's a great because like they're just so smooth, but they care about the music still.
Larry June shoes. Kay, what are you rocking? What are you enjoying?
Nothing music wise now, but as I said, Ro, you're the second person to mention the Larry June, so I'm gonna get on that for sure tonight.
Yep. I always say orange print is the gateway drug.
It was.
Graduate. Yeah.
I have to
Okay.
thank you for that because I had heard his name a few times, and when I finally was like, let me just really listen. You said Orange Print. I think another patron said that, and that was the one. The Jake One beats.
Yep.
The way it starts off, that got me hooked.
So beautiful. So yeah, Kay, what are you doing? You got any TV stuff? I was watching
TV.
Abbott Elementary and really enjoying that.
TV
Oh,
stuff.
that's a good show.
I'm really enjoying. Well, Atlanta starts again tomorrow.
Wait,
But I've
what?
been really,
Season 4?
yeah, the last season. Yeah.
I didn't even know. Oh shit. Okay. Awesome.
So
Kay's coming through for us. This is good.
I'm looking for
Yeah.
that. And then there's a show on HBO called Industry that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's about the traders, like Wall Street traders. Well, they're not Wall Street. They're like, well, I guess they would be Wall Street traders that are stationed in London, and it's just about their life. It's kind of like Succession, but a little bit edgier. So I enjoy that. So
Yeah. The Succession extended rich people yelling at each other universe.
yeah,
It's
Succession mixed with Euphoria. If you're down for that as well, Euphoria is another great show.
Yeah.
I enjoy
I'd love
it,
to
so.
see Shiv on Euphoria, but I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ro will be on Euphoria.
oh my god, yeah. Okay, I just want a scene I want a crossover of a scene with Shiv and Zendaya.
Yeah.
I'll just be like a drug trip, you know. I'll do whatever. Needed.
Awesome.
I'm Iguodala. I'll just do whatever coach tells me.
You could be her Jiminy. You could be Zendaya's like Jiminy Cricket. You come to her in this drug thing and you give her advice or something.
Yeah. She can like do whatever she wants. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
thank you all for coming. RIPP and B Rock.
So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip-hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. Big shout out to Dano of Freemusicempire, Levi, Steel Tip Dove, Kakoa, Mahima, Jeff, Mitch, Dash Lewis, Pancake Cleaner, Trey, Noah, Justin, Brandon, Joe, Gavin, Matt, Teddy Faley, Jackson, Kian, Slumber Logic, Fatman Tomb, and Khalid for your generous support through the Patreon. I really appreciate it. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.